So I want to talk about nozzle techniques. Um,
Okay.
and can you remember when did you join the fire service? And can you remember what you were talked about how to use your nozzle at firefighting? And not just interior, exterior, just like
Uh,
roughly. Do you remember?
well, roughly, I remember that's. I have to go back a while, as
Yeah, I know.
30 years already.
But do you remember?
um, well, frankly, I don't remember that much because they didn't taught us that. They just said this is how to open it, and then this is how you get a spray, and this is a straight stream. They At that time we had the Purelex nozzle, and that was a sort of
Purelex?
say, yeah, it sort of looked like a stand gun, the
Oh yeah,
weapon
yeah,
gun.
yeah. As a high
So you
pressure, or was it just
yes,
low
yes,
pressure?
pressure.
Was
No high pressure. We only use high pressure. The low pressure was only for um, if buildings are really in fire.
yeah.
If you really need a lot of water.
So it was
But
the booster line with like 115 liters a minute or something.
yes,
Okay.
that was our standard.
Yeah. So basically, just was the did you when you joined as a volunteer or part time firefighter?
Yes,
How
yes.
much time did you spend on? So basically, no nozzle time on before you went active.
No, not really. At that time, it was kind of they learned you how the nozzle worked, how um, how to put it on spray and how to go to straight stream. It was kind of easy because if you put it had a sort of a trigger.
Yeah.
So if you pull the trigger, the first part, you had a fog, and if you pulled it all the way down, you had a straight stream. So that was basically it. They told not during the basic training, but at the station they were more learning you about how to handle with a nozzle. If I still can remember some fires that I went with the older guys at that time. I'm now belonging to those now, but the the older guys at that time, they always said, "Oh, no, 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 don't use the water. Be easy. Go in, look underneath the smoke, and when we find the fire, we're gonna extinguish it."
Do
Uh,
you know where was do you know? I understand you didn't know back then, but do you know from now was Lloyd Laven's work like the school book for the Dutch fire service 30,
mm,
40, 50 years ago?
Not that I can remember.
Like the
Uh,
indirect attack.
no,
Do you know?
well,
Was it?
the direct and indirect attack, we were still thinking that the water bounces off the wall, and then you could hit the fire beneath or after behind a
So you,
uh,
yeah, it was the
yeah.
bouncing of water you did in the street. It wasn't by directing it up to droplets or converting
No,
it to steam or something like that.
no, 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 no. The only thing they said, well, we should spray it against the ceiling, and then you could influence the fire with it, and then cool it a little bit. But
So so
it
do
was not about cooling the gases, but it was more that they say cool the environment a little bit.
cool environment. There wasn't any talk about gases or gas cooling or
No,
like the concept when like Paul Grimwood and John McDonough, like the concept of fire being a 3D phenomena, meaning that it's not just surfaces, it's also gases. Do you know what when was that
no.
introduced?
This came up somewhere in the early 2000, 2000 between 2000 and 2005. They were talking about that a little bit, and then the Be Safe model was kind of introduced around 2007, 2006 in that area.
So going back before that, did you experience that firefighting was? I mean, did it work? I mean, what you were doing was that a did you switch? Yeah, if you look at it, what you were doing 20 years ago or 30 years ago compared to now, like, did you have bad fires, or was there let's go back. Was there a problem,
No,
or
no.
or have we
We,
invented new solutions for a non-problem?
I think that if you compare it with now, at that time we really had when we had a fire. If we went to a fire, let's say just a normal house fire, um, 9 out of 10 times when you would come there, we had a flames going out of the window. It was open,
Yeah,
so when we entered it, it wasn't a room full filled of smoke. We
yeah,
had a lot of smoke, but it wasn't filled to the floor. So if you would go low, you could see underneath, and you could easily find the fire from the inside.
yeah,
So it was also thought that we not put the water from the outside inside. But so we went in, and I must say, I never encountered a fire that we couldn't deal with two streams of high pressure.
yeah. So
Because
it wasn't an obvious problem you had that needed to be fixed.
no, not at that time. Um, the only times that we had a problem was when we had a industrial fire.
Yeah,
We couldn't locate the fire quickly enough. Um, then and the box was still closed. Then the smoke was still till the floor. It yeah, you were encountering hot environments, but then most of the time we tried to find the fire, but it was not that it's um, like now, because I I never felt also unsafe by doing that.
was
So
that from
just
ignorance, or was that from the fire being different?
I had that question for myself numerous times, and trying to go
It's
back.
a hard one.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And going back and looking at all the different types of fires that we had, it was kind of like sometimes it was really hot, and then it was like, okay, here we go, and it was, we're gonna beat it.
Yeah,
Other times it wasn't that hot because the most of the heat could get out because the windows were out.
yeah,
So it wasn't. Um, at least I didn't have the feeling that we couldn't get the fire.
yeah,
If we went into it one stream, then it was kind of, if we couldn't make it, we were just go on the radio and tell, hey, let some other guys come in with the
yeah.
second. And if we would need a third one, then the second engine was there, and then they also came in with the high pressure.
Yeah.
So it wasn't directly that we would go over to low pressure. It was kind of how the fire developed, how it was, how it if it really gets big, then we took some 52 milli hose lines out,
Yeah.
low pressure.
So when was the first time you encountered like a, if you want to call it, a different thought about firefighting, meaning that understanding more about fire being 3D? What was your first exposure to that one?
I had a fire. It was an industrial one, and I went in with one of the older guys, and it was hot inside, and we couldn't find the fire because it was just full of smoke. And then one of the old guy I went into, he said to me, "We have to get out." I said, "Why?" "Well, I'm getting hot at my legs, so my shins and everything, that's going to be hot. It felt hot, so it's no good. We should go out." So I had something like, "Yeah, it's hot, but let's go." But we went out, and then about 5-10 minutes later, the whole building was on fire. So it was kind of, at that time, a gut feeling from these guys. They had different signals than we are looking at right now.
Yeah.
now we teach guys to read smoke and all that. But they had something like, oh, no, this doesn't feel well.
Yeah.
You know? And
it doesn't
I
feel like it used to.
Yes.
It's out of the normal.
It was different. And then they said, okay, let's go out.
So that was did you start searching for answers yourself, or was someone else giving you the snippets you needed?
No, it started basically with, I became an instructor in the beginning of 2000, and I had a preference for teaching something about fire, not the other stuff. And then I questioned the way we did some things, like a door procedure. You
had a door procedure before that?
Yes, we had, but it was, don't laugh. We had a...
the 3-second rule?
No. Yeah. So we had to open the door, wait 3 seconds, and then go in.
Because
especially don't look before you go in.
Because it could be a backdraft coming.
Yeah. At least then you have a good one.
Yeah.
No, and that was kind of the trigger to me to go on the internet and start searching for answers, and see. So I was reading about backdrafts and flashovers and all that, and I thought, hey, if we wait 3 seconds, a lot of air goes in, then we make things worse than just open the door, look, and close it again. We also always had to put our foot before the door in case we opened it, that the pressure would not knock us over if we would open the door without putting our foot there.
Okay.
And it makes sense if it's really bad on the other side. But if the box is closed, then it can't be bad at the other side. At least
not now, but it will be if you keep it open.
Yeah, if you keep it open. So that was kind of the things that we were kind of the trigger for me to dig in deeper. And then from reading stuff from Paul Grimwood, all kinds of publications that I found. Yeah. Not many. I mean, in those years, it was just really ones and twosies of paper that you could find. So, and then I started to question all these things, and at the fire department, and they said, "Oh no, we have to stick to the books. This is what the books read, and now you're coming with all kinds of stuff." Nah, this is bullshit. This doesn't work, And I'm still working on it. Not
Aren't we all? Well, so when you started reading, about like, was there bits and pieces, like if you go back to like 2005, maybe when you've read a little bit of stuff, was there things you went like, oh, this is good stuff, and was there things you thought about, like, if you can recall, where you go like, oh, that's bullshit?
Well, I was kind of open for all new things, looking at before, let's say, for my regular job, I had to travel a lot to the US because our headquarters is there. And I knew the fire chief of the company. He took me to the training field on the other side of the airport. And just during lunch, we went there, and they were ready for doing a burn in a container, split level container. And I'd never been in a container before. So in 2000, I had something like, okay, let's go. So I went into the container and looked at it, and the instructor explains all kinds of stuff. And I thought, wow, this is kind of great. It's something different than what we do.
Yeah.
And so I thought, this is something we have to apply with us to teach the guys what fire really is, and not just doing something.
Yeah.
So after that session in the container, I went back to work, and all my colleagues were asking, "Where you been? You smell like smoke." So from there on, I searched, and I came out in Belgium, in Genk, a training center. And they call it Plot, P-L-O-T. Yeah. And they had a container. They had those 2 Swedish split level containers there. Yeah. So I spoke with our with my commander, and also with the chief of training, and I said, well, this is something we have to go to. We have to get our guys into those containers and try to bring them to a next higher level. And it didn't went that easy as I'm telling it now, but
it never is. It's usually a process that takes a lot of time. Yeah. So 7 years later.
7 years later, we went to we started up a program, and we called that program Hotshot.
Oh, good name.
And I did it with a colleague of mine, and we took our small region that we had. It was just containing 6 stations, and we went to a course. We set up the course in Belgium, in Genk, and so everybody went into the container, and we did some runs in a fire building. That they do some real action stuff in finding a fire and extinguishing it. And we came to the conclusion that we were teaching guys in our own fire building, and in our own fire building they didn't want to have a big fire, so we had these fire baskets, put the wood in there and light it. The thing is that our guys were searching in our fire building, getting in, finding the fire, report it, and say, hey, we found the fire. And that's what they did. They didn't do anything. Yeah. So they were just sitting there, chit-chatting with each other, because of what else you have to do.
Yeah.
So they really didn't learn how to extinguish. And we found out that the moment we were in Belgium in that fire building, they were doing some real heavy fire in those buildings. Yeah. So they put a lot of pallets in there and they light it. So these guys coming in again, sitting there, reporting we found the fire, and don't do anything.
Yeah.
The Belgian instructors that were also there, they had these little plastic bags with some fuel that really lights quickly. So, and then if it took too long, before they're doing something, they throw on that little bag into the fire, and then you get a nice flames. And they still didn't do anything. So that really sets us thinking, because it isn't right. Even in a training environment, if you don't do anything, if you don't act, if you don't react on what is happening. Besides yelling into the radio that the fire gets bigger, there's something wrong. So we modified the whole training course and more into, hey guys, let's go. You have to do something. So at that time we started, and that was, what was that? I think it's about 2007. We started to do nozzle techniques. And try to teach the guys how to use the nozzle and in what way. So we were doing the shark method. We're doing the O. We're doing the ZOT. We're doing all kinds of stuff,
So the shark was. The shark was starting narrow and going deep, or did you do the starting going wide and going more narrow?
Yeah,
there was the inverted shark, and there was a regular. Which one did you do?
No. We started
wide, going more narrow down here. Okay, yeah. That's the inverted shark.
Okay. Well, that was something that came out of Sweden, they told me.
Yeah, well, yeah, well, it is. Well, it makes sense. Well, it came from like a lot of the bad stuff came from containers where if you're sitting in an open container and you have a big fire here, it started with, well, if you attack the base of the fire and you sweep it that way, going wider, you just push everything that's inside container out through that opening, and you're basically left with an almost empty container with a small fire.
Yeah.
But like that was, I think it was just playing, and that transforms into like, well, hey, let's do that on the Fireground, and like people see it, not understanding it's kind of sort of a play, and then taking out on Fireground and going like, what if you don't have a big opening on the backside? It's not a good idea.
Oh no.
And then the people inverted it to the other ones who's going like, well, start wide, try and cool the gases first, and then go narrow, which it makes a lot more sense than the original one, which is which is going narrow and going wide. But I think that's one. I think that's half the story at least.
Yeah. So that was basically the start of when we started doing all kinds of stuff with gas cooling, the 3D cooling that we 3D pulse. That's what we and it was
basically you draw that mostly from the book 3D Firefighter, or did you have other people coming there showing you techniques? Or
no, it was basically to the instructors from the Belgium training.
Yeah.
They were trained by some Swedish guys who delivered the containers, the split levels.
Oh, it's like a Swedish company.
Yeah, I don't know who that was, but at least it were Swedish instructors, and they teach them all the stuff, and so they teach me, and I was kind of if all the guys went out of the container, I stayed for at least 5 to 10 minutes inside again and play around myself.
Yeah.
So and one-on-one with the Belgium instructor, and that was kind of the start of the whole journey in gas cooling. Although we didn't explain it that way at that time, but it was more a 3D shots that we had to do.
You taught it as a technique rather than explaining what you're actually trying to do.
Yes, in the beginning it was, yes.
So and it's like door procedure. It morphed into robotic behavior as a technique rather than what are we actually trying to accomplish.
Yeah, that was the same at the time with the modified door procedure, but also with and that's what we found out afterwards also, is that we set up some fires, and then guys coming in doing nicely all the gas cooling, and then went up to the fire, and they kept on gas cooling. And so it was kind of journey how we moved along, and we saw failures and mistakes that we made by not telling the guys how to do it, so that you also have to extinguish the fire. It's not that we just do gas cooling and try to get the fire out with gas cooling, because that's not going to work. So all these little things we get back from exercises that we did with the guys. And so then we modified the program again. And so you keep on tailoring it till I think it's fine. And I still think it's not fine, but
at least it's getting better. Maybe. Is it not getting better anymore?
I don't know. I don't know if it's getting better.
It's just different. Or is it back and forth all the time?
Well, it's kind of, if you see now, you're now looking at doing gas cooling. We say, well, yeah, but do gas cooling. We're not going to do the short pulses. We're just doing the long pulses instead of the short pulses. So first you teach all the guys how to do the short pulse. Then we have to teach the guys also a long pulse. And we have to say to the guys, now in a real fire, don't do short pulses. Just hit it. Do long pulses.
Yeah.
It's a constant change, and sometimes firefighters get a little bit, a little bit upset about. Yeah, please come on, tell us what to do, and keep it in one form, and not that we have to switch all the time.
Yeah, I mean that's hard because one year you're standing there saying one thing, and the next year you're saying something else, and you kind of go like, "Well, I only tell you what I think right now. Next year is probably different."
Yeah.
Like I can't like, or do you want me to tell you nothing, and in 10 years I'll tell like. Do you want the intervals to be longer, or do you do you want to change a little bit at the time, or do you want to have a big revolution in 10 years? No, so I mean and that's a separate issue, but that is a big concern that you're constantly. If you have I would say it like this: if you have a good program, you're constantly rewriting it. Like that is the sign of a good program, or at least a sign of a good program. Because if you think you have a static program and like you're just making small tweaks, maybe you're probably not in the game. And that's just the nature of the game right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's also that there's so much development going on, so much research going on all over the world. Everybody's doing something, so it's like it's really a hot topic.
Oh yeah. But so let's, because when you, let's say, go back again to 2005, 2010, a little bit later. So you were teaching short pulses from reading, short pulses and long pulses from reading 3D, realizing that, well, short pulses maybe not really that applicable in the Fireground, long pulses. Did you ever think about, or did you ever experience that firefighters, when put in a different volume than our normal house, how they would supposed to behave? Like take a small commercial building or a office building, industrial building. Like in terms of nozzle technique, were you taught to behave differently? Did you teach to behave differently, or was it that, which is a common problem, you teach people how to behave in small volumes and then you kind of leave it at that?
Yeah, I don't think that there was a difference in a fire was a fire at that time, and if it's in a big building or in a small building, it still is the same the same fire. We didn't apply different techniques.
No.
It was just no, and I think looking at the fires that we had in larger buildings, commercial buildings, then it was just flowing water as much that we had, and most of the time it just burned down.
Yeah.
It just took a little bit longer because of us, but
it burnt down during supervision.
Yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, going back to this, and I just look at myself, but also try to look at Swedish history. It is, when I look back, strange how we implemented a system in Sweden where we taught firefighters how to behave in small containers, which transferred, depending on the instructor, reasonably well to residential structures, apartments and single family houses. But we never taught firefighters how to behave in large volumes. It wasn't part of the plan. Maybe there was some kind of theoretical discussion about larger buildings, about how the systems work and so on. But it wasn't anything about how do you behave, for instance, with a nozzle. It wasn't part of the world view. It was just figured out on your own.
Yeah, but that was kind of the same here. These larger buildings, or let's say you take a guy who sells cars, and has a small showroom and at the shop in the back, 9 out of 10 times this burned down.
Yeah.
Because of I really don't know because of what, but it was, I think, to adding too much oxygen to the building, opening doors, fire gets bigger, we can't go in anymore. The knowledge at that time about keeping a building closed wasn't being put on the Fireground, and I don't know if we thought about it at that time. It was all the how you say, the actions were into, we're gonna knock down the fire.
Yeah.
And if it didn't work out, bad luck. It wasn't like, oh yeah, we have to contain it, we have to do this or we have to do that. No, it wasn't the case. We just worked our ass off, put it that way.
Yeah.
And try to keep it in where it started.
It wasn't in Sweden. I would think that we were maybe we were better, or maybe we understood better nationwide that we should keep it contained. I think that was more understood maybe, but it was still firefighters going inside with a fog and trying to cool the environment and try to find the fire. And if the fire grew too quickly, we were chased out. And if the fire didn't grow quick enough, you maybe reach the fire and put some water on it. There wasn't a technique difference in how we did it. And it wasn't for me. It wasn't until I started going to the United States where I actually found myself being exposed to any other idea about how to do that whatsoever. And I am astounded by my own ignorance and my own biases when I, for a long time, brushed off everything the Americans did as borderline insane. Because that was the kind of the mentality, what I've been taught, that
yes,
like massive ventilation and big lines were kind of, well, you need big lines if you do massive ventilation, was kind of like, stop doing massive ventilations, you don't need any big lines, you don't need those. And I brushed over like, well, they're not doing gas cooling, so they don't care about droplet size. And I was always taught, if you could talk to Mats Rosander, like one of the pioneers of Sweden, about straight stream gas cooling, like the Americans, and he said, well, it's useless. It's utterly useless, because Mats Rosander and Axelsson started with Lloyd Lehman's. I mean, that were their gods. And Lloyd Lehman talks about little drops of water and the value of breaking up the droplets, but there wasn't good nozzles. There wasn't any good fog nozzles, so that's why they invented or brought to life the fog fighter, to that could actually produce that right droplet. Because Mats Rosander and Axelsson came from their view of firefighting, which was straight stream smoothbore firefighting up into the 70s, 75 in Sweden, whipping around the ceiling trying to break it up into steam, to find a hot surface and break it to steam. Because indirect attack that way, meaning producing steam, that was the way firefighting was taught in Sweden. And that was sort of understood, like how you can inert an environment with steam. It was just really uncomfortable to be a firefighter doing that.
Yeah,
you were laying in there, and that's why you see all the videos in tropics. The firefighters were crawling on their knees. That's why firefighters in Sweden got Gore-Tex gear and big hoods. Probably the first fire service in the world got overpressurized masks, because the environment in there was just miserable. You go in there, close everything down, super hot, vaporize everything to steam, and just endure the steam. And if you do that successfully, you don't get a flashover. You don't get, and you knock the fire out, and then you ventilate. It was just miserable. But even when they did that, it didn't always work, because it wasn't vaporizing fast enough. You didn't find enough hot surfaces to create enough steam to make the smoke inert. So he said, well, it doesn't work, straight stream gas cooling. And I was taught throughout, from basic school otherwise, like if you use straight stream, you're pretty much stupid. Like there's no place on the Fireground for a straight stream because you're just gonna bounce water off the ceiling. It's just gonna bounce straight on the floor and does nothing of value.
Mm-hmm.
That was pounded into me. That was my
Yeah.
worldview. And when I started going to the United States, and they were telling me like, "Well, Lars, we've knocked down flames with straight streams. Like we've read 3D Firefighter, and I met firefighters that could talk the same language." I kind of go like, "Well, they don't understand. They haven't really read it. They're not. They're just misunderstanding what it is because I have the truth."
Yeah. Yeah.
But slowly you got to realize that there is like it also works. Maybe it's more inefficient, but look like fucking it works. And you start seeing YouTube videos on actually solid streams knocking down flames, gaseous flame from coming at you, and cooling smoke and so on. And then you get UL studies going like, well,
Yeah.
there it works. Like you can do you do gas cooling with straight stream too. I mean, it's not. It's interesting if you're going to quantify the effect of it, but I mean, just doing backyard science is probably maybe half as efficient. I would just, if I do my guess, like
Yeah.
if you would have needed 115 liters to cool off a flame front coming at you with a fog, in the same setup, if you whip it a straight stream around the ceiling, you probably need 200 liters or 230 because much more end up on the floor. But I think that's the range. It's about half the efficiency.
Yeah, I guess so. And that I think that's also the reason. Well, what I think is why they're using bigger lines than we are.
Yeah, you need more because you
Yeah.
are more inefficient in that sense.
Yeah.
But the biggest concern for me, so for me it was, and there's many others, but the biggest concern for me was, well, at least with the place where I first said, well, like I am so stupid, was, well, what if my fog can't reach it? Like,
Yeah.
what if the hot smoke is 5 meters away or 10 meters away or 15 meters away? Like, I don't have a gun that reached that far with a fog, but I could do it with straight stream.
Yeah. And that's what we did. We also did that. I
Yeah.
mean, it was in a normal, let's say a house fire or a small commercial building, we put it always on straight and aim where we saw the orange glow, and that was it. And then we also swept and whatever we did to reach the fire. And if conditions get a little bit better, or at least it didn't get worse, then we advanced towards that orange glow and then put it out, try to put it out with our water. But if the fire was a little bit bigger as normal, then obviously we couldn't make it with the 125 liters because it was just not sufficient enough, not enough. But looking at if we went in, if we would do an interior attack with a 52 mil hose, then it was always on straight. We never did it on fog.
Fog with a 452. No, I mean because I'm so ingrained that we never used. I mean, sure, if we talk a defensive fire and you were just lobbing water onto a big pile of a whole house burning, then you maybe go to a straight stream. But inside, I mean, it wasn't part of the world view. It wasn't part as an option. You could just as well block that part of the nozzle almost because it was never used. I like because even if you start seeing glow, you should go to a spray to more effectively cover the surfaces. Because in reality, like if you go to a residential house, there's no surfaces you can't reach with a spray. Like the distances aren't that long, so you always go to spray because you cover more surfaces and with less water more efficiently. But again, it was never transferred. It was never transferred to what if we go outside a residential house. It was never part of the worldview. I was never taught that. So maybe someone somewhere thought, well, that's self-evident. If you can't reach it, go to straight stream. If it's further off, go to straight stream. But nothing is self-evident unless it is self-evident.
Yeah.
And like it doesn't become that. If you're not taught it, you're not going to do it.
No, but in the early days, we also did only that thing. We only used the straight stream because the nozzles that we had on low pressure I don't know if you know the nozzles. It's a Unifire, those long nozzles that you just can go on spray, and that was it. And then and they were always put on straight stream and try to get in. But 99% we used the high pressure hose lines and tried to knock it down with that. So and I think as of today, a lot of firefighters, at least in our region here, just put it on straight and go in, and they, especially the older guys, they don't care. They just say, okay, let that gas cooling bullshit. We just put water on the fire.
Which is interesting. I mean, Sweden is really. I mean, it is really the opposite. It is the old guys that would never go to a straight stream now, I would say. That's because that's the norm. That's the norm. That's what's been around for 40 years. And so that's the norm to always go to fog. But the other piece of the puzzle was, I mean, we were taught about oxygen and air entrainment and so on. We did hydraulic ventilation 50 years ago and so on. And mixing inside the fire compartment when you do a fog is not really a big concern, because if you do door control, you don't have any visibility at all. If you start mixing things into the fire compartment, it doesn't really matter that much. That was at least the thought and so on. And still, I think that's the case. It's most of the times a non-issue. But where it was an issue is that one of the things I react on is that we knew how to do hydraulics, so we knew that you can move a lot of air. We quantified, there's data on it and so on. You will list on this much later, but we knew that we can move pretty much as much air as a fan, and it was practiced all the time to do hydraulic ventilation. But that concept of standing in a window and doing hydraulic ventilation, if you just move yourself into the hallway and you're attacking the bedroom and you're going through that opening, now you're basically hydraulically ventilating from the hallway into the bedroom. And if the bedroom is closed, everything in the bedroom is going to come back at you. Mm-hmm. Like, the concept of hydraulic ventilation was lost as soon as you went into a building, an opening inside the building. Because nobody paid attention to that one. And I've been to so many CFBT programs and so on around the world, that I know that nobody teaches this either outside. Nobody teaches that, well, if you hydraulically vent from the hallway into the fire compartment, everything inside the fire compartment is coming back at you.
Well, I agree if you would keep your nozzle open, but if you just do your gas cooling, then it wouldn't.
Yeah, but if you well, basically yes, but that was in the short pulse, it doesn't really matter. But if you do a 3-second pulse, it starts to matter. 3 seconds is a fair bit of time, and especially if you have a substantial amount of fire, and you go back to the Swedish context of, if you have flames rolling out over your head, and you start whipping around your fog, and the flames doesn't really go away, you continue to flow. I mean, you flow until you are successful. Now you're basically flowing more than 3 seconds. You're flowing 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever. Now you're really hydraulically ventilating everything in the hallway into the bedroom. That was never part of a problem.
No, not in the early days. At the moment, we tell the guys, if you don't have success with your extinguishing or with the gas cooling, and flames don't go back if you put water on it, then you have to go back to a safe environment. So go behind the door and put as much water in there as possible, and then close the door, and we keep on repeating that. So you're, as a firefighter, more safe than staying in that hallway, because then
and I don't have a problem with that. It's besides it's being defensive in the sense that I would much rather than you go, if we're talking a small environment, you go a long pulse, maybe you're not that successful, then you go to straight stream and you whip it around in front of you. You try that also. Now, if you're not successful in that case, I might want to pull back and retreat. But that second option was never there to show
No.
that what happens if I can get a little bit of extra reach? Can I get further in? What happens if I create my droplets further ahead, if that's the problem? Because that's usually the problem. If I'm not successful, I'm not reaching my droplets further enough. I mean, this basically never happens at apartments or even single family houses, but it does start to happen if we go up in size, that you're not going to be successful at just advancing because you have a flame front you can't really push back.
Yeah.
But that option wasn't there, at least, and maybe for some individual firefighters, but not as a concept of teaching in Sweden. Like, it wasn't part of the big curriculum that people were teaching. And that for me was one of the, and is still going to be one of the major challenges of changing in Sweden, going back to saying that, well, there is a time for fog, which is much more efficient, creates less water damages. It's faster. You can use a smaller hose line in small environments, but knowing when to switch to a straight stream when the volumes get bigger, so that you and thus have to have a bigger hose line, which is slower and requires hydrants and so on. So there are penalties for that, but knowing when to make that switch to be effective at bigger volumes too.
Yeah, that's and yeah, I can agree upon that. For us, it wasn't taught. There wasn't no difference in that. Frankly, I don't know even if I would nowadays put the guys into a hallway and flames are still coming towards them, what they would do. I think they would go out and not trying to take the straight stream, or they were doing a straight stream and not doing the fog cooling. I'm not sure. They would try all kinds of stuff, I think. But it's the teaching now is being done more extensively than, let's say, 10 years ago. Now we teach much more on why we do things. And back 10 years ago, it was like, okay, this is what we have to do. And this is where this works.
And I think that both are critical, because I would argue that Sweden went too far in the why direction. Because if you only teach people why things happen, but don't also give them what it means on the Fireground, they usually don't make that good interpretations and assessments. So you have to. I think the why is critical to be able to adapt and make them accept how to do it. But you have to teach how. I mean, just some examples. We were losing door control in Sweden. I mean, door control as a technique, but also as a method to use to control air, because people understood oxygen to the fire is bad, but we started, for multiple reasons, not teaching it practically. And then it kind of fell off, because if you don't practice it, you kind of forget about it. It becomes non-issue of also. And there's multiple ways of that. And also you can make the argumentation that people understood fully that, the concepts of gas cooling and smoke can be fuel and so on, but they didn't switch to a different technique or tool when the volumes get bigger, because they haven't been taught how to deal with this new problem.
No, that's
and
correct.
Some firefighters will make the direct connection, but I would say that that's the 10%. It's not even 30%. It's definitely not 50. So it has to be like, if I made a robot, I would teach them to go long pulse during the hallway to cool the smoke, and if the flames coming out them, but that doesn't work. Go to straight stream, whip it around for 10 seconds. Are you being effective? Are you not being effective? Back out. Like to have that approach to, what do I do? What should I try when I'm not being successful? And if you don't say that out loud and show them that this is the options you have, people are not going to figure it out themselves.
No, that's absolutely true, and it's also something we run into here, is that as you know, we're trying to convince people that they should use a low pressure line when doing interior attack, instead of using the high pressure line, just for safety wise. It's kind of debate between the people because they say, oh, hey, all the fires that we run into, we can easily extinguish with my high pressure line. So you have to, on one side you have your science, which tells you need more water. On the other hand, no, but on the other
I
side,
would tell you this: there are fires that need more water, and if your
yeah,
firefighters can't distinguish
yeah.
between them, you should go with low pressure.
But on the other side, you have the guys with all the experiences, what they have from all the fires that
Uh,
they went through, and they say, "Hey, you're telling me I need more water, but it works."
well, I mean, I think that the problem, I think that the problem, well, the problem is that 95% of all the fires firefighters go to are not that complicated.
No.
So it is the age long problem of complacency of, I mean, this usually works. And if you're not convinced that your firefighters will be able to make the switch from the normal tools, the normal behavior, the normal thinking, when you reach that 5% fire, or maybe even more important, the 1% fire, will somebody will get hurt, or the
Mm-hmm.
thousands of fire where someone get killed. If you're not convinced they can make that switch in whatever behavior tool and we're talking about, you go for taking the 5% tool to 100% of the fires, and that would be for me. But you're going like, well, yeah, I will take the bigger line because at 5% of the fires I'm going to need it. But the penalty for that is you're going to be slower at the 95% of the time.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it's an easy fix, but I think it's a very contextualized about how much time do you have for training, what are the problems, what kind of occupancies do you fight fire in, how big a volume it is.
Mm-hmm.
It is a difference to fight fire in New York inner city compared to New York, out in Montana or Colorado, these big massive mansions where you go inside the living room, it's like a car factory in there. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it is a difference in terms of what tools and techniques you use, and the same goes for Sweden. So I think it is contextualized, and therefore I am against saying that, well, generally we want to move to a bigger line or a smaller line, because I think it's you have to look at least every country to look at how what is what is the level of our training, what is the level of our commitment to what we're supposed to do in terms of, I mean, if in Sweden, if the trend goes towards, I had a really interesting conversation with a Norwegian firefighter, and I thought of this before, but he said, "Well, fire service." He just went to another degree. He said the fire service shouldn't like really spend a lot of time doing interior firefighting and so on. We should build houses instead, so that when the house start to burn, we just let it burn down because the insurance company is going to tear it down anyway, and we supply a reasonably priced house to the insurance company, which the firefighters built on their, the time they're not spending training or doing otherwise. That would be a
Yeah.
revenue stream for the fire service, and and that's a pretty off idea, but it's not true, because the fire service nowadays, the houses in Sweden are getting torn down more and more, and we're getting. I think we probably end up where United States are, where they tear down every house, regardless of how well we treat it. Sometimes because of the fear of smoke smell being stuck inside the walls.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's more of a concern for me than it is for you, because you have concrete and masonry buildings, and the smoke doesn't stuck there.
No.
They're not turned down. They're not. They're not. Well, but in
No,
wood
but
buildings, the
the
smoke
same
stucks.
issue. Yeah, but the same issue here is if we go to this commercial building stuff, we also there are also some discussions going on what to do. Should we really do our utmost to save the building, to fight the fire, or is it like how was the building constructed? Was it constructed to withstand the fire, or was it constructed? Well, yeah, it's going to collapse when there is a fire.
Yeah.
So this is what the owner wanted. So whatever. So sometimes, most of the times, you work your ass off in getting the fire extinguished and try to save the building. And then 3 days later, after the fire, the big machines are rolling on the onto the terrain and tearing everything apart.
Well, even if you save it, it is an interesting discussion about why are we messing up materials, risking safety of personnel, so that the insurance company can, save a buck or two to renovate the building instead of tearing it down in that case. It is, and that's what I think that's game plays into the context of what you're supposed to do. Yeah. And I don't set those rules, but I see that those rules and those cultures play a part of it, and I don't see there is a right answer. I do not see that it's a clear answer that we're supposed to save everything that's savable at any cost. It's not a way to go, and I'm not saying that we should let everything burn that isn't essential and can be replaced. But it was like the other argument he had was, if you go back 30 years and look at a house, everything was, most of the stuff in the house was unique. Like there was pictures on the wall in your kids, there was paintings, all the furniture was made in a local carpenter. If I look around my house and I look at everything here, it's very hard to point out something that I can't buy and get shipped here within a week. Like what in my house is not replaceable? Like everything on my computer is up in the cloud. It doesn't matter. Look, all my pictures, it's on the computer. I mean, all my stuff, everything is not everything from IKEA, but a lot of it is like, even if it's designer stuff, it's still just, you just go down to the designer store and buy new stuff. And then you go like, why are we in that case risking something? Like it's not risk versus. We're not talking saving lives and stuff like. We're talking property here. That is a different question. We're talking like why are we, in that case, jumping over hoops to save? Look, not what.
Yeah, but you never know what's in the house when you turn up to a fire.
No, but again, I think so. But again, I think that's what's contextualized. That every fire service are different in how you approach that. Like if the culture is like we're gonna save that damn IKEA furniture if it's possible, and we'll break gear for thousands of dollars or euros to save that IKEA furniture, which is something's what happened. Like I remember we went into an industry and we fought a fire in an industry that in my area burned a lot. Their fire prevention work was non-existent. They kind of just didn't care. Like we went and extinguished that building like every year, prevent it from burning down. And I remember one of those cases that we damaged a lot of gear because there was like hydraulic oil dripping over so all the turnout gears were like destroyed. It was like, I don't know, 10,000 euros or 20,000 euros. No, it was more. Well, anyways, let's say 20,000 euros to go there. But like, in that case, why should the taxpayer pay that to save insurance company money at a business that doesn't care? Like, is that fair? Against who? Taxpayer?
Yeah, but on the other hand, if you go with your fire truck to a fire, and the company officer says, this guy did his prevention correctly. He didn't pay for extra to get the building strong enough. So we just wait and see that nothing else is going to be burned, and let the building burn. That's the other.
But that's the other extreme. Like if you don't have fire insurance.
But I remember a lot of guys back that are really upset that they don't allow to fight the fire.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember reading about it. Was a case in the United States somewhere where the firefighters arrived at a house. They didn't have fire insurance, and the fire chief said, "Well, I cannot allow you to help this guy with the
Yeah.
gear you're on. Like if you wanna take leave and help out, carry out stuff from the house and so on, you can do so, but you have to remove your firefighter gear and so on because that's government property. Like that's the city property. I can't do it because I will be in the shitter." Because
Yeah.
this guy didn't pay his fire insurance, and that was caused controversy. Of course, there was, and again, it goes back to I'm not. It's hard to say what's right or wrong, but again, it plays into how you value, for instance, what you're supposed to do, like risk assessment. It plays
Yeah.
into that. You can't get away from that. So that's why you have to make it. Like if you're doing a procedure, again, if you go long pulse in a hallway, and you just back out, that doesn't work. Or if you keep on trying, you build up risk while you're trying because it's not working, at which point you may be too late to get out without damaged gear or even burn injuries. It plays into the culture of what are we trying to save. So it's hard to make it like a fixed ratios, and this is how you do door control, this is how you do advanced, this is how you do extinguishment, based on what values you have to go there.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that is a difference.
But if you talk to the firefighters who you send in with the hose line and say, okay, and knock down the fire, see that you find it and knock it down, if they have to come out because somebody says so,
They're
it's too
pissed.
dangerous or whatever, they're pissed.
Yeah.
They're
No, I know.
sorry.
It's,
We almost had it, just left
yeah.
us in there for a moment, and
I would be
there's
pissed.
yeah, of course, but it's it is it's kind of strange how firefighters are. And I remember a quote that our Greek friend George once said that imagine there is a garbage truck who is driving with the two guys in there and going around the corner and see all this trash in the street. And
That's
they
an
got
Andrew
like,
Fredericks quote.
okay, so it's kind of like, wow, shit, this is a lot of work. And then if the firefighter with a truck comes around the corner and he sees a lot of flames, they're happy.
Yeah.
So it's a different type of read. It's I
Well,
don't
I
know.
mean, that was that Andrew Fredericks. You know who Andrew Fredericks was?
Okay.
Do you know who Andrew Fredericks was?
No.
So Andrew Fredericks was he was a captain in the fire department in New York.
Okay.
Oh, maybe not a captain, lieutenant. Oh well, I don't remember, but he died in 9/11, sadly.
Okay.
But he's big and he has some phenomenal writings and so on. I think at least that's where I attribute the quote saying. But he had a different conclusion to ours. He said the firefighters shouldn't be happy going around the corner. You should anticipate there being fire. You should act like it as it was the garbage man, meaning that you shouldn't be surprised there's fire because that's your job.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't go around corner anticipating, going, wee it's a fire. You should go like the mindset should always be set that there is a fire around the corner. I'm just gonna go there and put it out. So that was his take, but George is absolutely right that is the case. We get happy, or most people get happy, and I'm guilty of it too. I get happy if there's a fire because it's fun to fight fire. I wouldn't do it otherwise. It's challenging, it's rewarding, and it's pure fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just thrilling.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I am not going to lie about that, as I try not to lie about anything. But it is again, it is about those values that play into that. And going back to the straight stream fog issue, I think that how much pride has Swedish fire instructors, has fire instructors around the world, the CFBT community, how much pride has been put into small droplets of water created by a fog and gas cooling, how much work has been put into that. And it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of will to say maybe that wasn't the full picture. the Americans had another version of gas cooling that they didn't call. They still don't call it gas cooling. Most of them they resist that word because it has a baggage. They didn't know why they were doing it. There wasn't the concept of cooling smoke. They just went in there and basically pound the shit out of that building, and the fire went out. But that doesn't necessarily mean they were wrong.
No, no, I agree. I agree on that. If I look now, we're now doing it about, let's say, 10, 12 years in the Netherlands. At least in our region, we do it. There are talks now that people say, well, shouldn't we use a straight stream instead of a fog stream? Wouldn't that be better? So people thinking of, is it really the correct method that we use, let's say the Swedish way, the 3D gas cooling, or should we go back? Because I refer, we're going back to the straight stream because that's what we did before. And that's also the reason why now the Dutch Fire Academy is going to start with all kind of tests. In regard to gas cooling, and we're also going to take a straight stream in that.
Yeah, so, it's fantastic if you can quantify it. That, I mean, we need the data.
Yeah.
But I hope. I mean, no, I'm not going to be dogmatic about that. I hope that we can have. I'm pretty sure that the answer is you need both to be effective. It depends on the situation. Like you need fog for because the efficiency is higher with fog in a smaller volume than straight stream. It's just pure physics. But is it worth? The first off, you need to quantify where is it more efficient and where does it start losing effectiveness. So you need to switch to a straight stream, and where does the limitations of straight stream? There are boundaries there that would be awesome to have data on. But to me, there is an overlying question. So go like, well, if we acknowledge that straight stream is effective, sure, not as efficient in smaller volumes, but if we don't really care about water damages, and we know that training people to use a fog efficiently, it takes a lot of practice time. You need to be very proficient with your nozzle, but with straight stream, you just go in there and whip it.
Yeah,
it's like super easy. Is it worth the time it takes to train people to that level of efficiency, or is it better to train that on another way? I like Ian Bolton Ian Bolton, you know Ian, right?
Yeah.
And his decision was, well, I mean, we've gone the fog path here for a number of years. I would just assume that I think that their department's probably better than most Swedish departments at doing fog, but he made the conscious decisions to go back to straight stream again, just because maintaining that level of proficiency, looking at all the other types of incident they go to, that was not a good trade-off.
Yeah, but that's what we encounter here also, is that for the last 10, 15 years that we're busy with it, and also with the Be Safe model, it seems to be really hard for all the firefighters to come up to a certain level that you would say, okay, now they got the hang of it, they know how to do it, they always do it, they got the knowledge behind it, everything that belongs to it we use. And it turned out that it's not the case. It seems that for practicing it 3-4 times a year is absolutely not sufficient.
No, not if you want to be really efficient by it.
Yes.
No.
Yeah. So, and that's also a reason why our lector Ricardo Weber wants to test us the straight stream, and I'm not against it.
I really hope
yes.
that Ricardo picks a random batch of firefighters in Holland. I mean, not nerds, a random batch of firefighters, let them go in, different levels of training, different levels of experience, let them go in, try to do gas cooling and measure that. Also measure what you would describe as proper gas cooling. and then measure an average fire to going in and just whipping it around the straight stream. Because you can go in and measure. You can put John McDonough in with a who's an excellent nozzle man. Put him in and do the test, and it probably will perform. But what happens if you put an average firefighter in?
Yeah, but that's also
that's the problem.
Yeah, that's also the problem we're running into, is that it doesn't land. Put it that way. We bring all kinds of stuff out into the field, and the majority is not picking it up as we would like to.
No.
And
you can't blame them for it.
No, absolutely.
In that case, we've put the bar too high.
Yeah,
the instructional design is poor.
Yeah, it's also sometimes to how do you say that? Sometimes it's too hard to know all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Because we are kind of fire nerds. We read and we do and all kinds of stuff.
What do you mean, kind of fire nerds? You are a fire nerd. You're not kind of a fire nerd, Hans. So don't kid yourself here. No.
So it's for us, it's more a basic thing, but for them, it's kind of we teach them. They don't get enough training time, so they just do their best, or they think, I just do what I did always.
Yeah.
And so all the stuff that we try to put into all our firefighters is not really absorbed the way we would like to have it. And it's because we got all kind of different people. Some guys have more something like with technical rescue. They like that more than a fire. So you can't blame them. And I think that in the first years that we started with the Be Safe model was kind of that we put the complete Be Safe model, took it and throw it into the field and say, this is what you have to learn. And that was really not one bridge too far, but a couple bridges too far.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
And we recognize that, and we're now coming up with a more simpler way where we can use the Be Safe model in a way like just some rules of thumb, and that's it.
Yeah, I just go by temperature. That's my game. I just go by temperature. If it's cold, vent. If it's warm, cool.
Yeah, for us, I would say
that's all you need.
Yeah. I always say, if you see smoke, cool.
Well, the problem is that if it's already cool, you're not making any difference.
No, but does it care? Does it make?
But you're not making it safer.
No,
and that's the thing you have to push out. Like if you go into a cold smoke environment, sure, you can spray as much water as you like, but it doesn't make it safer. No, I'm not saying you shouldn't cool, but I'm just saying what are your options, and the only options you have are ventilation.
I know, but to make it easier for a firefighter, and that he doesn't have to think when to start cooling, it's
that's why I think you say switch smoke to temperature.
Yeah, but
if it's hot, you cool. If it's cold, you don't cool. You vent. It's as easy, but it's more true.
I know, but when are we gonna say it's too hot?
Well, you measure temperature with all the.
Who's gonna have the thermometer?
You just go up with your hand and go like, fucking hey, that's hot. You cool. If you go up here, go like that. It's not difference. You don't cool.
No, we don't need to, because we walk up straight.
Yeah, but you can use your ears to. But again, well, we're not going to go into measuring temperature. It is, but it's more true of an answer. But I think it's indicament of what you say. We need to make it simpler, and it's because we have so many other things that not other incidents. We can take that aside. That's an old separate problem. Also, like if we should spend our time more doing hazmat or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I would much rather, if I had to pick a thing right now, I would rather go back to everyone doing straight stream, not being efficient, but being much better at for instance using fog nails or cobras and so on, because I think that would greatly improve efficiency and effectiveness, safety and so on, rather than being really good at your nozzle. Like it's the wrong thing to focus time on to be a good nozzle operator.
Yeah.
In the scope of being effective firefighting, it's the wrong focus.
Yeah.
So I'm not that interested in nozzle work for that simple reason. In terms of how I want to deliver training, I think it's much more interesting to do other things than, because I don't think that's going to solve the firefighting problem. It's getting the water in the right room, which is important, not when you get in the room having it in right shape. Like if you can get water in a room, that room is usually solved. The problem is that you can't get water into every room. That is the firefighting problem. Like gas cooling was intended to get you to that right, to all the rooms that needed water in. But if I can solve that with a fog nail or Cobra, whatever, or straight stream to the window, whatever, if I can solve it in a different way, that's usually a faster option. Or usually I was just go like that's sometimes a faster option.
Yeah, no, that is true, and I think if you have the tools, you should use them. If you would have some fog nozzles on the on your engine, then you should use them. Pin them through the wall, cool down, and then go in. Absolutely, but that's just the problem. Not every fire engine have these piercing tools.
Yeah, but a piercing nozzle, everyone, you can just take a pipe and put it on. Like everyone, like there's no financial, almost no cost to getting a piercing nozzle of some sort. So it's based on all the other costs, and that's especially not for this Dutch fire service. You're comparably super rich compared to most of the world.
Forget it.
Because labor cost is much more.
We were.
Well, it's just like Sweden also. We were rich, but anyway. So like a piercing nozzle is the cost is not the problem. The real problem is always going to be the challenge of training the firefighters to understand how to use them, how they work. And again, I would much rather put the time there to solve a problem rather than put it on nozzle technique, because it is an overrated skill in the sense that sure, it's better to be a good nozzle operator and effectively put every bit of droplet to its best of use than not being. But comparatively wise, training wise, it's just too much work to get to that point.
I'm not 100% agree with you on this, as you obviously know. I think that it's a good technique if you know how to do it.
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah. But did we make our tools the way we would like to have them? Let's say, for instance, a nozzle. If I take a nozzle, how hard is it to put blindfold the nozzle between 30 and 60 degrees?
It's super hard if you don't have bumps or clicks or stuff like that.
Absolutely, yeah. I agree. So, we wanted to teach the guys something which is good. I'm still convinced that gas cooling is still a.
Well, I'm not talking about gas. I'm just talking how to do gas cooling with a fog.
Yeah, but we give them the tools. That doesn't make it easy for them. We're giving them tools which is in a dark environment, a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Thick gloves on. We have to fool around with that nozzle, and it's just a matter of a couple millimeters. You have a different pattern.
Oh yeah.
So,
but most nozzles are not used for European style.
No, I know.
Gas cooling,
and most of the nozzles are being made
for United States to go for
United
spray.
States. So, and that's why I was thinking about, well, can't we make a nozzle to make it easier for a firefighter?
Did you look at Frank Evineux's optimal nozzle?
Yes. Yes.
You know, the first time I've heard about that one, and I thought like I wasn't a part of like, oh, that's a stupid idea, because you should be able to adapt to the situation. You should be able to have go to whatever flow you need, whatever ball going. And like most things, you go full circle, go around. Like that's an excellent idea. I just wouldn't have the. I would just have a long pulse and best straight stream. Go like that's the only thing you need. You need a long pulse and a straight stream. If you need a wider straight wider fog, you just go move it around a little bit. You just don't need those two. That would be simplified now. Now I could go like that. Okay, if you're in a small space, use a fog. If you're in a bigger space, use a straight stream. If you're doing if you transition from one compartment to the next, use a straight stream so you don't pressurize the next compartment with hydraulic ventilation. When you're inside the compartment, go to fog again. That's a pretty robotic thing that you can teach firefighters that I think will be fairly efficient.
Yeah, I think it's more efficient. I was lucky that I could go to the TFT Task Force Tips factory and spoke to the engineer, the head of engineering, and I said we have to do something because it doesn't work. Everybody likes your nozzle, but it's hard to adjust because the 30 and 60 degrees is just almost impossible for the guys who just have this nozzle 2-3 times a year and have to do their gas cooling. So what I did, we came up to modify the nozzle, and so normally you feel a detent if you're somewhere at 35 degrees. Yeah. What we now did was we extended the detent towards 30 and 60 degrees. Yeah. So now you move your nozzle into the detent. The detent is just a little bit longer, and you feel some resistance at the 60 and resistance at the 30. So at least now you feel you're in the detent, and you move to 60 or to 30. You know your nozzle is in the ballpark. Yeah. And who cares? It's 30 or 35 or 40. No. It doesn't matter. I mean, throwing with all those numbers is for me.
No, it's useless because you don't even know how big of a room you're in the first place.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? Like, and I know I'm throwing stones in glass houses because I thought the same, and I teach the same. But isn't it funny that we've talked about making it authentic. We talked about making it real, but still, when we do nozzle practice and nozzle training and so on, we fool the students at thinking about like, well, you have to place it optimally in the room. How big a room is this? You have to make the correct nozzle pattern flow for a certain amount of time. And thinking that when you place them in a real context where they don't know the size of the room, they can't see their nozzle, they don't know exactly how much flow they're flowing, and how much the heat is they have to actually cool, that they're going to work it out in that situation, that it's going to be correct. I mean, if you explain like that, it's like preposterous.
Yeah, I know, but how?
It's just a theory.
What other options do we have? What other options are there?
No, well, the Americans had their option, just pound the shit out of it. But I'm not saying that their way was better. But I'm saying,
if you don't see any flames, then you don't have you can't put the shit out of it. It's not working. So you have to teach them something in order to get to that fire and then put it on straight and knock it.
Are you saying that you can't gas cool with straight stream?
Not as efficient as...
No, not as efficient, but I'm not talking about efficiency. I'm talking about effectiveness.
Then I would need more water than the 125 liters I am having.
Yes. I agree with that. The booster line, line is not a great option for straight stream gas. No, but the only option
we have within the Netherlands is 52 mil.
Yeah, and then that's not a fun option. No, that's not a fun option. I mean, I 38. We have 42 is our standard, and that's workable. 42 is you can get a lot of water in 42, but still manageable. Yeah. 52, that's hard. That's a beast. That's like in American terms like 2 inches, I think.
Yeah, 2 inches. Yeah.
Yeah. one and a half, like 1.75 inch is, it's a little bit bigger than R42, like just a little bigger, and that's a nice that. But we also have 1.5.
The sizes that go within the Netherlands, it's 38 millimeters and 45.
But 38 works fine.
Oh yeah, the Amsterdam Fire Department uses the 38.
Yeah.
Because they say, well, we rather would go with our high pressure lines up, because all those narrow houses and stairwells and all this kind of stuff in Amsterdam, they have to maneuver a lot. The 38, it's much more easier to handle than a 45. Yeah. So they choose for the 38, and I think it's a good option.
Sweden had 38 also to start with. The only reason Sweden switched to 42 was to be able to use 400 liter per minute foam injectors.
Okay.
So it was not 400 liters per minute to firefighting. It was 400 liters per minute for foam injectors. Like the ones, do you need an actual flow to get the certain right percentage? That was the only reason. But now we never use foam anymore. So, but now it's hard to change back to 38 if we wanted. But I don't see that's an important question. I think 42 is workable. I mean, booster lines are used extensively in Sweden also. But again, if you make that switch to 40, if you want to do straight stream gas cooling, the booster line is not an option anymore. You're not doing straight stream gas cooling effectively or efficiently, for that matter, with a boost line. You probably need at least 200-300 on we're talking apartment fires and stuff like that to do straight stream gas cooling.
Yeah.
And if you're doing bigger houses, you probably need 400 or 500.
Yeah.
But again, I think that this mind game of the Swedish way, the CFBT communist way of teaching fire gas cooling was an extension of the academization of the fire service. Like the academics in Sweden thought about, and Master Sanding Christer was part of that one, even though they were very good at practice also. But they're part of that. Like, well, this in theory seems like a good idea. It matches the science. It's physics. It's chemistry. We can teach it, everything. But it's just one of those things when you try it in practice, it's not. It doesn't work in the context of being applicable with that amount of training as well as it should do.
Yeah.
Because I go to Swedish. This year has been really bad, but at least last year got to acquired structure houses, and I either just join as a spectator. I go around filming and shooting videos for training content, or I participate in running the training then. And I look at and I get that. Well, like the instructors of fire services, the full-time staff, the part-timers, they look at the nozzle technique, and I just go like, I wouldn't send them in. If I were an officer and another level, I wouldn't send them in. Yeah. Because they're horrible. Because what's worse than being inefficient? Well, it's being ineffective. Like if you're gas cooling in the belief that you're being effective, but you're not, that's worse than being inefficient. Like if you're gas cooling, you don't know your stream pattern, and half the times you're doing a small burst of straight stream, and half the time you're going to full fog. You're not even close to covering that volume up with droplets. Yeah. That's the worst outcome, because you're not as good. You're not being efficient as you can with a fog, but you're not being effective either as you could be with a big stream and just whipping around in there. And I think that's where the majority of the European fire services are. That's where they are. That's the baseline. That's in practice not really good at doing fog cooling, and that's the only option they know how to use. So that's what they do.
Yeah, to my opinion, I think that the whole concept of gas cooling is absolutely good, but the training that belongs to there should also be good and efficient and enough. And now it's being treated like, okay, we also have to do some gas cooling here. Stand there everybody does a little bit of the nozzle, and that's it. And we did our gas cooling training. That's not that. But this technique, you need more training as what we provide them at the moment.
Okay, so let's put it this way then. How many hours of the year would you need to make? Let's say you have a sort of okay basic training. You understand the whys and so on. How many hours per year do you need to maintain a good nozzle technique for doing gas cooling? Meaning you can adapt in zero visibility environment to be efficient.
I think, and I'm a volunteer firefighter, so it's easy talking for me. But if I would be a paid fireman,
it doesn't matter if you're paid. It's like if you take it.
No. But if I would run on a station and I would have 24 hours shifts, then I'd do at least every shift a 10-15 minute gas cooling, just to get the feeling of the nozzle. Yeah. It doesn't need necessarily to go into a burning building or whatever. It's just to know the nozzle. If you know the nozzle and if you're comfortable with it, then you're going to do it when you're in a burning building for real, because that's the technique you're used to. Now, the technique is not, you're not used to the technique because you're only doing it a couple times a year. And so it's not your common practice. The common practice is straight stream and here we go. Because that's the easiest thing. You don't have to think, you only have to up and here we go. And that's also the reason I personally think that why it is not that adopted within every firefighter, because it's sometimes too hard.
Yeah, and I agree. But if you just look at it from an admin perspective, if you say that firefighters should train 10 minutes every shift, that's a lot of hours on a year.
Yeah. But what is 10 minutes? If you pull the truck
well, then that you can't think about that. You're in private business. You can't just say like 10 minutes. You can squeeze 10 minutes. That's 10 minutes you take away from something else. Like if. Well, I mean, I don't know what Dutch firefighters do in full time, but in Sweden they're supposed to work at other things.
They're supposed to work, but let's say in the morning you have to check your fire engine, so you drive it out of the station.
I understand, but if you're 10 minutes, 10 minutes, regardless how you push, 10 minutes or 10 minutes, regardless. Because you can easily say like, well, what if we squeezed in 10 minutes extra CPR training? Wouldn't that be much more valuable in saving lives than nozzle technique?
I don't know. It's not about your own safety.
No, I'm just gonna as an example. That's you can't just say that 10 minutes is like easy to squeeze in. 10 minutes is 10 minutes, and that's gonna cost. That's an admin way of looking at it, because otherwise I could spend 10 minutes on visiting houses and putting up smoke alarms. I have no idea. I'm just saying that you have to make a choice. That is it worth the price? And what is the price? The price is, well, I'm not saying this. I don't want to leave fog gas cooling for smaller spaces, because I still think it's so much value. But I have a duty. Mm-hmm. To be the devil's advocate in every context I am, to justify my own beliefs.
Yeah, I know.
So if I'm in an American context, I would be the devil's advocate for gas cooling. If I'm in Europe, I'm a devil's advocate for straight stream. That's just how it has to work.
Mm-hmm. No, I know.
So I'm not advocating for leaving fog, but I'm just going to, because there is of course a cost of, and that's the thing that annoys me about the American Fire Service. They're saying there is no cost for going bigger lines, basically, because the only thing you hear is like, we have the water. Go like, well, if you want to go low pressure, high flow, like all the big departments that use that, they have like Seattle and New York and so on. They usually have a firefighter at every turn. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like every turn, there's a firefighter feeding hose line because you can't leave a turn out because it will kink because there's low pressure and so on. And they try to adopt new hose lines with stiffer lines to get less kinks and so on. But they have that kind of manpower. Like that's a big cost in admin in terms of what can the other they can't do other perform other duties like search and rescue, like ventilation or whatever it might be. Like there's a huge penalty for going with bigger lines. It's not just it's just more cumbersome to move, which is like the easy one. There's everything from, well, you're going to use more water. If you use more water, you need to connect to hydrants faster. And that takes time and resources. And if you connect to hydrants faster, you need a good hydrant supply that costs money for the city to maintain. Like most small cities in Sweden, they're not happy if we use hydrant water because it grains the water for everything else, because we take so much water out. All the rust gets out of the walls from cities, and everyone gets brown water, and everyone's pissed off, and so on. So the like there's the whole infrastructure of using bigger hose lines that doesn't scale well. So I'm not at all advocating for bigger lines easily.
No.
But the issue with gas cooling is real. I mean, you can go gas cooling larger volumes. Oh, that's a given. Straight streams, bigger lines, because going with a small fog in a bigger volume doesn't work. Okay, that's a given for me. But going back to smaller volumes, where's the line where you go, fuck it, I'm not doing gas cooling anymore because I got a half an hour every year to teach firefighters how to use their fog nozzle. They're not going to be proficient. They're going to be dangerous for themselves. Take away their booster line, give them a bigger line, mash it with a straight stream. At least they're being safe. Because that is the level. Like if you look at fire departments, how many fire departments has allocated more than half an hour each year for nozzle practice? You can count them with your hand.
Somebody on the screen here.
Oh yeah, that's the house cat.
Yeah, I see.
Hello.
I should bring out mine. Saw some ears on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, she probably wanna.
Yeah, but I guess, to my opinion, you should use the best of both worlds.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's absolutely.
And absolutely don't think there is only one world. If a straight stream is much more efficient, use it. And if you can gas cool and it works and you're comfortable with it, do it. It's yeah. To my opinion, I think we can learn a lot from both worlds and use
absolutely.
things.
But you still have to find as the nerd in your context, you are setting the bar for what you think other people will do, indirectly or directly, saying that, well, I think that this is a reasonable approach. And if you say, I think it's reasonable that every firefighter could make a distinction when to use a fog, when to use a straight stream, when to use the boost line, when to use the big line. And you say that, well, if they're reasonably trained, but you don't specify what reasonably trained means so that the fire service can make the judgment if they want to pay for that training. And saying that reasonably means 10 minutes every shift in nozzle practice, at least, plus whatever basic training and so on. And they say, well, what is the option? And you say, well, you can go and do just straight stream for everything, and this is the cost. It's 5 minutes every shift. It's half the training time, blah, blah, blah. But you also need bigger lines, and you need a better hydrant system. Now you're providing them with the information they need to make a decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not saying that it's easy, but I'm just saying that it depends answer is just not gonna cut it unless you give them it depends on what. Yeah,
but at least I think we have the nozzle that can either do fog
yeah
or straight.
Yeah,
so
well, at least
we can use both techniques.
I do not understand solid streams. I do not. Well, I mean, I sort of understand it for like high-rise operations if you do not have the pressure to deliver enough water and get droplets anyway. But otherwise, I just do not get it. I read every blog. I'm all the Facebook groups that like smooth bars, and I see every talk and I just don't get it. It's just, well, you can get a little bit of extra flow per
Yeah,
nozzle reaction, and you get a little bit more punch. You go like, well, what's punch? And they go like,
yeah,
well, you get reach. Like reach
yeah.
is not a big difference, and
No.
go like, yeah, so yes, we have a tool that can do both. I'm very happy
Yes.
about that.
Yeah. So at least we can choose. The option is there.
Yeah, but again, if you go to Swedish context, people haven't been choosing straight stream for 15 years, unless like you know, like going on the street and sweeping debris.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Well,
but
it's
I
like that's
guess
the only.
yeah, I think that within the Netherlands, it's being used both, to be
Yeah.
honest, and I would like to have it used more, the gas cooling in a sufficient way, but as I think as long as we can operate in a safe way and knock down the fire, it for me, I really don't care how they do it.
No,
If it's
not
if
me
it's
either.
being done
But
if
that
it's
was.
being done in a safe way, it's fine for me. And that's what we trained the Amsterdam Fire Department in our training setup, and they had to do a huge fire just from the outside. So we had a house fire which has the big window out, and
Yeah.
so flames engulfing out. And then we just told the guys, okay, do do whatever you want, try to extinguish it
Yeah.
as fast and as good as possible. And some guys did it with a straight stream, other guys did it with a fog stream. It worked here and it didn't work there. So it was kind of going on, and the guys really liked it to try what they think was good. So they thought, oh, I'm just going to put with my high pressure nozzle, the 125 liters, a straight stream in there and see how it works. And then afterwards, they try to do it with an indirect attack first
Yeah.
and then direct. And then, oh yeah, this works even better. So we gave him the option, and it's kind of how to explore. And I think in that way, if you would train guys in this direction, that they can try it themselves and what they think it's becomes handy for them, and they they have also more feeling for it, and then they have more they're more comfortable in using it when they go to a real fire.
Oh, absolutely. I've no different in there. It's like always. It's the hard part is create a training environment where um, the actions they take re-
Hmm.
justifiably represent what would happen in real life,
Yeah,
and that is a problem. So I am 100% in agree as long as you as the instructor are confident that again what they are doing represents the reality. And a lot of times in training buildings, that's not even possible because you don't have the same temperature of the walls, which doesn't create the same steam effect. You don't have the same connectivity of the walls, again, doesn't create the same steam activity. You don't have the temperatures of the gases in the same way. You don't have enough gases. You don't have the same flammability of the gases. You don't have the same properties of this and the sizes of the rooms. You don't have enough, you don't have the same flows because the temperatures are lower, so the gas exchange is slower, and you go on and on and on about the difference between the built environment and training environment. And again, as an instructor, you have to make sure that if you allow your students to play and look at the results of their playing, that you're entirely sure that they represent the real world. And that's where I think that you could probably make a good case for it. You can make a good training. But what a problem I have is that 95% of the trainers that are out there in Sweden cannot make that. And I have no ambition or delusion whatsoever that they can reach that proficiency. Because
yeah,
they're not either not interested or they will never have the ability to reach that level financially. So
Yeah.
it is a problem in saying that we can let students play, because I don't think we can, and at least in a Swedish context, get to the level where we can allow that, because I'm not sure that the instructors would stop them and go like, well, sure, that worked now, but it doesn't work on real fire.
Yeah, but I think it's obviously we I would like to have a real house with real furniture and everything, how we did it at UL, light up the place and then do your job. But I think we're getting pretty close with our training, and I'm also really happy that within the Netherlands we started. Together with Simco, we started 8 years ago with this whole CPT concept, and also training instructors all in the same way.
Yeah.
And we're now up to, I think, 430 or something instructors that we trained, at least to have all the same basis. And what we hear back from all kind of regions is that the same story is being told. And that makes it also a little bit better for the firefighter who is going to this training center, then to that training center, then to the other training center, and at least he's getting the same story.
Oh yeah, and that's a fantastic achievement, Hans.
Yeah, that's but that's I think that was one of the things that helped to get make our fire service a little bit better. Because it starts with the trainers. It doesn't
absolutely.
Start with the firefighters.
I mean, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and
we're way behind because we don't train our instructors at all.
Yeah, that's I think that's I'm really happy that we could achieve this, and also the feedback we get from the field is good in that way. So, and we also want to continue with this, and we still teach them to gas cool and how to gas cool. We go a little bit more to long pulses than to short pulses. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to do the tests. What we're going to do in January. We got our first meeting. We got a couple meetings how we're going to set up the tests. And I think the proposition you made on take a couple guys from the field, that just the random guys, and let them do it and see what the results are.
I mean, you can just go like, if you like, what I would probably do is that the big experiments, which are a little bit hard to set up and measure, you do them separately with maybe at least a decent nozzle operator, so you get consistency. But just to gather 15 of them, get them through a container, and you put them on thermal imager. Don't measure anything, just look at their behavior. You would get a really nice overview of is what we are expecting of them being actually achieved.
Yeah.
Because it would be very expensive to do very elaborate testing of 15 different nozzle operators doing the same thing. But just doing a very simple exercise with 15 people or 20 people to get a baseline of how good are people at adapting to zero visibility and different room layouts, and how to use their nozzle with maybe a pallet fire somewhere that they go inside and extinguish.
Yeah, I don't know how much money we have, but I certainly going to push for it. I think it's a good idea. Also,
people will come for free just to do. They would be fire trained. So
no, that's out of the question. they would love. Everybody would love that. It's like if we would have the money to run the extra runs, the extra burns to do it, and then set every time the same conditions when they enter, all that stuff. But I think it's a good one to take within to the first meetings that we have. I think it's within 2 weeks now. So the second week of January, at the first meeting.
Or you might propose it like this: that you do a pre-trial, because you do 15 of these burns or 20 of these, maybe not even with a fire, just a blindfold, and you do 20 of these runs with 20 different firefighters in that environment to find what is the average nozzle ability, so that you can pick someone, that could be yourself, that imitates the behavior of the average firefighter when you go into the final scenarios.
Oh, the real tests, you mean?
So you mean the real tests you don't perform to your ability, you're trying to replicate. Even better, you build a robot that replicates exactly. I wouldn't now I'm getting out of line. I would place this is what I would do. Just spitballing. I would do the 20 trial runs before, and find like the average level of that train. That would be subjectively, but sort of like that. And then on the actual training, I would place fixed nozzle through the entire course up to the fire with the average nozzle performance on each position, so that every run is identical in cone angle and flow time and flow, of course.
Yeah.
And that, again, that is not based on the optimum cone angle. That's based on the average cone angle of the 20 firefighters. That would be an interesting test.
Yeah. Let's see what we can come up with. I guess. I think they're going to say, "Oh, well, we need the money for something else."
Never say that Lars thinks that. Lars thinks that.
Yeah, I'm gonna really put it on you.
I can come there. I can show you my pretty horrible nozzle skills. In theory, I know what to do, but give me a new nozzle, I'll show you how bad I am.
Well, I think if you have to do that within the Netherlands, we have to shave you first. Otherwise, you are not allowed to get in.
I can have like a big box with me, just a big bag over my head, and just bring the air I have in the bag. Yeah, it's pretty fun. Okay, so no, I really have to go now. We've been talking for an hour and 50 minutes. A pleasure. Thank you, Hans.
Yeah.